What's up everybody, Bandit here. So as you may know, we are going on a little bit of a four-wheel drive adventure here at the end of the week, and we're going to go down to Harlan, Kentucky to Black Mountain OHV. Now this will be the first time we're taking the Land Cruiser out on a pretty big four-wheeling weekend, we'll call it, and there's a couple things that we want to look over. Now before you go on any sort of wheeling trip, there's definitely some things that you want to look over. You know, check all your fluids, check to make sure your tires are properly inflated before you hit the interstate. Obviously it'll air down when you get down there, but you want to make sure everything's good to go before you get started. So there are a couple things that we need to address here on the Land Cruiser, and a couple things that I want to check. But before we can even do that, there's something that we need to fix first. Now, a few of you have recognized that the hood struts here on the Land Cruiser don't actually do a whole lot. Without some sort of assistance, it does seem to fall down pretty much by itself. So in the past, I have been using just a pair of vice grips. You can go over here and put them on the strut. Get them on real tight, and then it can't fall down. Now, the fine people at Sparks Parts have a better solution to this, and they sent it over to us. And what that is brand new hood struts. So after a while, these struts kind of lose their fluid inside, and as a result of that, they don't stay up as you just witnessed. But the fine people at Sparks Parts did hook us up with some new hood struts, so we'll go ahead and get those installed first. So there are two basic components that come with your hood strut. You have the bracket that bolts it on down here, and a little ball and socket up here at the top that allows a little bit of pivot. But to take all this down, it's a 12 millimeter here for the bottom, so we'll go ahead and get started with that. Now with all that out of the way, you want to move on here to the top. Now the top is also a 12 millimeter to get this ball and socket off, and you want to rotate that off as well. Everything out of the way, you'll go ahead and put everything back together. Now the bolt that you did take off from down here will have to be reused, but everything else does come with the hood strut kit. So we'll go ahead and start up here. Get that on. And tighten back down. And go ahead and finish up the bottom here. While you're going the other side, you do brace even the good hood struts with a pair of vice grips, because it's not designed to have one hood strut to hold up the entire hood. It is designed for both sides. So you want to make sure you go ahead and brace that while you finish up the other side. Now with both sides complete, we can do something that I haven't been able to do the entire time that we've owned the Land Cruiser, and that's put the hood up and down, and the hood actually stay up. So huge thanks to Sparks Parts. Now I can finally work on the vehicle without trying to decapitate myself in the process. So moving on here to check some of the fluids. Luckily the Land Cruiser is old enough to actually have a transmission fluid dipstick and an engine oil dipstick, and they are located here on the passenger side right beside each other. So the orange there is for your transmission, the yellow is for your engine oil. And I did just check the transmission fluid. It was a little bit low. You do have to do that with the vehicle on. So go ahead and add some of that, and we'll check the engine oil while we're at it. So the engine oil is full, another thing that we haven't seen since we got the Land Cruiser, which means it's really not burning that much oil. I was a little bit afraid when we got it that it was burning oil, but we have about 150 miles on it since we've done all the gaskets and everything else that we've done, and everything's looking pretty good. If you're unfamiliar with this or you're new to the channel, we did just do the oil pan and the rear main seal. So all of that is new, as well as the new valve cover gasket, and it looks like all of the oil is staying in. Before I was going about 100 miles and losing at least a quart of oil. Now I've gone 150 and it's still topped off. So awesome. Huge thanks to all the people that helped me through that process. And if you do have any questions, let us know. It was a little bit of a job, but we did get everything done. Now another thing that makes this vehicle a lot different from a lot of newer vehicles is you do still have an old school air filter in here. So to reveal that, you do have to get that top nut off, take away these clamps on either side, There are 3 of them all the way around. And then pull it off. There are a couple vacuum hoses over here that it helps to disconnect those. And there's your air filter rather. So in that same box from Sparks Parts that we did get the hood struts in, we also got one of these. So it is Christmas, as you can tell by the red and white Toyota box, and inside we have a new air filter. So we'll go ahead and pop this in. You can tell this is a lot newer because it is not exactly the same design. All of the paint and everything like that still remains, and hopefully we'll be able to breathe a whole lot better with one of these new filters. So go ahead and pop it in. And it's really that simple. You just lift up, slip it over that center post there, and your air filter's in. We're going to try to address here, now that all the fluids are looking good, is this rust hole here in the floor. So I pulled up all the carpeting and panels out of the back here and found this little rust hole. Now it's only but probably the size of my hand or so, and I did get some metal plate here that we are going to cover it up with. But first I want to go ahead and get the seat belts out of the way, and then we'll cut the rust hole out. From there, we'll go ahead and take the angle grinder and cut around all the rust. You don't want to leave any rust there because it will continue to rust. So we will want to cut all of that out before we stick our new piece in. Switching to the Sawzall there because it was a little bit easier to handle and I wasn't throwing quite as many sparks. As you can see, the fuel filler neck is right here. So if I did have any kind of leak in my fuel system and I was throwing all those sparks, that's probably not the best idea, especially in a confined space. So we did go ahead and square everything off, at least to the best of my ability, with the Sawzall, and we'll go ahead and figure out something else here. So here's a look at the metal that we got. I did just go to Lowe's and pick this up, and it's 16 gauge, and I got a 12 by 18 sheet. Obviously we won't need near this much for just that little hole, but I'm going to go ahead and take some cardboard here and make kind of a rough template, and that'll kind of help us to know where to cut when we go to cut the metal. Alright, so we just determined that this was a decent width, but we'll go a little bit wider than that. So we're looking at, let's go ahead and cut it at, let's say 6 inches. So we'll make it 6 inches wide, get that slope coming off of there, and we'll see how it works here. Everything cleaned up in the hole here, and with the plate cut out, I went ahead and did a test fit, and everything seems to line up pretty nicely. Now before we stick everything down, there are 2 things that I want to do. I want to cover the entire thing in the flat black paint just to kind of stop any rust that may start, and I also want to coat the edges of this in black RTV, the silicone sealant, and I think that should really help keep everything that's outside out and everything that's inside in. So we'll go ahead and start with the painting. Alright, so I went ahead and coated the entire back of the plate and a little bit of the hole with the black RTV, and like I said, this is just to create a little bit of a sealant to keep what's out and what's in. So we'll go ahead and flip this over and put it in position. Alright, now it seems to be lining up just fine. We'll go ahead and finish off with these self-tapping screws. Now we're just going to put a couple around the edge here just to kind of help seal it off a little bit better and keep everything in place. So from cardboard template to finished product, here's what we're looking at, and I think it should hold up just fine. Now obviously there are better fixes to this. If you have access to a welder, just welding in a little patch would be great, but this is something that anyone can do in a matter of a couple minutes. I think I spent a total of maybe $20 at most at Lowe's, and I have more than enough if I have to do the other side or find any other small holes. So overall, really cheap and easy project, and now I don't have a hole in my floor, so we're looking pretty good. So now that everything else seems to be buttoned back up with the vehicle, we're going to do the finishing touches. We're going to reinstall the skid plates. Now, as you might be able to tell, I did paint the skid plates, and they are not the black factory color that they came with. And these are actually, according to the can, Husqvarna orange. So really exciting color there, and really the reason I went for this is in case I lose one, it should be easier to find an orange one than a black one. So we'll go ahead and get these installed on the vehicle and button everything back up. So now that the fluids are checked, the skid plates are on, and everything else seems to be sorted out, we should be ready to go down to Kentucky. If you are interested in our off-road videos, it will be coming out here before too long, so be sure and subscribe and stay tuned for all of that. And that pretty much wraps up everything we have to talk about for this week. So thank you very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Catch you next time.